Welcome to the Purpose Driven Mom Show, episode 414. This summer, we're going to talk about if you have time to start a business. And I know that if you're listening, you probably have that little inkling of like, could I do it? I would love to have some extra money, some stuff for me, some time freedom. But one of the things I hear from most of the moms that I work with is I just don't have the time. Show notes are going to be at purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 414. And if you want to learn about how to start a business, I also have a free workshop. You can go over to purposedrivenmom.com/dream to reality to watch it for free today. It'll be in the show notes and linked up. I want to talk to you a little bit about why I started my business, how I did it with my kids at various ages, and give you some ideas to filter through your brain of, do I have time to do this right now? And I also want to say this. Seasons matter. And it's not just the winter, summer, spring, fall. You hear me talk about seasons a lot, the seasons of our life. For some of us moms, summer is actually a time where you are like, hey, we have less school activities. There's less going on. So I do have more time. I was talking to one of our club members, Abby, and her husband's a teacher. So he's home over the summer. That might be a good time for her to say like, hey, I can go a little more full in for a business or a side hobby or whatever it is, because he's home and I have the support. For some of you, you might be thinking, my kids are home, they're not at school, and I have less time, which tends to be kind of me. I have less time to work in the summer than I do because my kids go to traditional school and they're 9 to 3. I want you to take what I'm going to say today and apply it to your own situation. But I will tell you, I've done it during all phases. When I started a Purpose Driven Mom back in 2017, I had a, newborn, literally weeks old. I had an almost 2-year-old. And I also had, gosh, math on that. So let's see, 6 years ago, I had a 12-year-old. So I had 3 kids, 3 different ages, 3 different sets of needs and activities. And I decided, let me start a business, right? My husband laughed because I was nursing him, Isaiah, my son, over a boppy pillow. And I just was like, you know what? There's got to be something more than what I was doing. I was in network marketing. I liked it. I was making good money, but I felt like I was like hustling all the time. And I was like, there has to be something different. I have to be able to work for myself in a way that looks a little bit different. And so I remember waking up in the morning and I was like, I think I'm going to start a business. And he was like, oh, okay. What's that going to look like? And here's the interesting part, fun in quotes, is that I remember starting this business and saying to my husband, like, is this going to work? I'm going to stop network marketing. We're going to figure this out. And he's like, it's fine. And then he was actually let go of his job from his job a few weeks later. And my business became our number one thing that we had. Like that was the only income besides unemployment, which took forever to get. So it was stressful to say the least, but I was able to make it work. I had started this business when it was nap time grind. Okay. So I want you to think about your own situation while I share my levels of where I've been. When I started the business originally, it was managing things with my stepson, who was 12, getting him to and from school. He was at traditional school. And then with the littles, it was only during nap time. I was having play dates. We were at the library. We were doing all those things. It feels like a fever dream, but I remember those days where they were up. We were mall walking at 7 a.m. because they were up so early and took 3 naps. And I had 2 nap schedules to navigate around. And I was getting things done in the margins of nap time. I was also doing it at the end of the night before I went to bed. And I was really, really tired. This was before I had a team. One of my team members jokes with me after we get done with Summit. She's like, how did you do it when you didn't have a team? And I was like, well, one, Summit before I had a team was like not even 100 people. And now we have like 5,000. But also I was really tired. Okay. So I did it during that beginning phase. I always talk about how I don't love the word hustle, but I don't want to discourage you from like, there's a push. Like you have to work hard. Not hustling does not mean not working hard. Like those things aren't connected. So when you're thinking about like, hey, do I have the time to start the business? The one thing you have to think about is it's not just going to come to you. I did have to put in work during the nap times at night, and I was tired, but it was a slower progress. That is the one thing that I think is really important, is setting expectations about what it looks like. All right. When I got started during that phase, I knew I needed to make money, but I also knew I wanted to be mom primarily, right? Like that was my primary role at that point. Now I would say, it's more of I hate the 50-50 balance, but it's split a little bit more that way. But it was like 90% I'm on mom duty during the day, 10% business. So what I had to do, and what you might have to do, is be realistic about the expectations I have for myself when it came to my business during those first 2 years. I had slow progress until about 2020. It was, and I'll talk about where things shifted for me. From November of 2017, that's when I started my business, to about January of 2020, things were slow moving, right? I was making money. I had maybe a handful of months I didn't make anything, but maybe it was like $7 on an ebook here or there. But it was slow, and I was okay with that because I didn't want to like really make it so I was sacrificing my sleep. I didn't want to like more than I already was. I wasn't sleeping anyway, right? With the newborn. I wanted to make it more aligned. So in the beginning, that's what it looked like for me. As my kids got older, like I mentioned during the pandemic, things actually picked up for me because everyone was home. Now, I know a lot of times we think, well, everyone's home, I can't do anything. It picked up for me because my husband was home. So I had a little bit more support. He was able to work from home. My husband's a principal. So his job was not easy. He was on call all day, managing that. Like there was a lot happening, but having just him home allowed me to set a few more guidelines of like, hey, can I have this 90 minutes, right? Like you have, a lunch break or whatever he was taking. Can I have these 90 minutes for you to also watch the kids so I can go into the office? And so I was actually able to work more with everyone home, which sounds counterintuitive, but I was. Moving forward into my kids going to school. So then they were at school, part-time preschool. I had that time. While my kids were in part-time preschool, I worked a second job. I got a job at a Barnes and Noble selling books. My husband was out of work again. These are stories for another day, but he was out of work again. And I knew that I wanted concentrated work time. So I got a job at Barnes and Noble because my husband he was out of work at his primary job. He had gotten a part-time job delivering newspapers. So he was delivering newspapers. Okay, so here's what was happening in this situation. He was out of work for a very long time. When you're out of work for a long time, you get into a lot of debt because you don't have money. So he had actually gotten rehired at this point. So he was working again, but he had gotten a side job delivering newspapers at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So he was getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, delivering newspapers, taking a power nap of an hour, and then going to work as a principal at a school for the rest of the day. And I was like, I have to help out more. Like I have to do something because like this is unsafe for him. He's not sleeping. So in order for him to leave the job at the newspaper, I got a part-time job working nights. So I worked at the Barnes and Noble nights and weekends, which meant my husband came home and I went to, like, we were passing ships, but it was what we had to do. Sometimes we just have to make sacrifices. So anyway, I just wanted to throw some of that story out because I realized that in my brain, everybody knows these stories, but I've been talking that was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And in my head, that was like yesterday. So I'm like, well, of course, everybody knows when I worked at the Barnes and Noble, but maybe you don't know this story. So if you're a new podcast listener. So anyway, so then I worked nights and weekends at the Barnes and Noble, took care of the kids during the day, worked the business, and then sent my kids to 3 days a week, 9 to 12 daycare or preschool so that I could work on my business so I could have uninterrupted hours. So that looked like that. And then my kids went to traditional school where they're at school 9 to 3. And that's typically where I work. And that's kind of where we've landed now. So I just wanted to share that to say, do you have the time? Not really. Can you make the time? Yes. But it's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. And when you can get over in my Purpose Driven Mom Club, I teach about in SOAR, setting the healthy mindset. When you get over the perfectionism of, well, I can't start my business until it looks like this, when you realize that you can do things, but it's going to look different, you have to accept that it's going to be different. I had to accept realistic goals, slower progress, because that was the nature of my situation. I also have to now, if I want to get some work done, I have to sacrifice a couple things. So in the summer, my kids might be home, they're outside swimming in the pool. I want to go in the pool too, but maybe I just have to bring my computer up to the pool to sit with them, right? Or I want to play a game with them, or they watch a little more TV so I can get work done. So I want to say that to you. If you're thinking about starting a business, if it's something on your heart, just know like you can do it, but you need to make sure that your business aspirations are aligned with your personal and family priorities, and that your time commitment is realistic for the effort like that you're putting in, right? It's not always this, I work super hard, I burn out, I have success. That's what I thought it was. It's what am I doing during that time? I am more efficient in 60 minutes by myself than I would be 60 minutes multitasking with my kids around. Okay. So it's not always, I have to be always constantly working to be successful, right? That's not what it is. But just know that those hours, there is some effort, correlation, monetization kind of connected there. In order to get your business started, you have to make sure you have really good goals right now about what that's going to look like. So in your first 90 days, what do you want to spend your time doing in your business? Now, again, you can go to a purposedrivenmom.com/dream to reality, where you can head over and you can watch this whole workshop I have on what do you do before you start your business. That's there. It's all laid out for you using my planning pathway framework. That's what I recommend. Your first 90 days in your business, you might not make any money. It's really about spending the time creating some systems so that you can move forward, creating some content, laying the groundwork, things like that. One of the things that's going to help you be more efficient with your time is planning. I know, Kara's talking about planning again. I teach this in the planning pathway framework and in my program, the Mompreneur Roadmap. But here's the thing. If you plan in advance how you're going to spend your time, when you do get that tiny bit of time this summer to work on your business, when you're like, all right, my kids are at camp this week, what is it going to look like? You will be more productive and you will get more done. I have pre-planned my summer loosely. Okay. So imagine it with like gray edges. Okay. I've got kind of my plan in there. It says what I'm going to be doing. And it started with when my kids are home versus when my kids aren't home. So I want you to think about that as well. If you have a week where you're like, my kids are at camp this week, ask yourself, is that a week where you want to go into a push season and get some things going to start your business? Is that a week where you're like, I'm going to do some market research on this. I'm going to spend some time writing a blog post, maybe recording a podcast episode. When you're intentional about the time that you do have available, you will get more done. If you're looking and you're like, hey, my kids are home all summer, the question then becomes not, do I have time to start the business or work on the business? The question then becomes, how will I spend the time that I have on my business? The answer could be, I'm not. You could say, I don't want to work my business at all this summer because I just want to spend time with my kids. I'm going to be real with you. If I don't have a day, like I take days off, right? But if I have a day where I don't do anything for work, not the weekends, I take the weekends completely off, but like Monday through Friday, I get kind of cranky. I like to be connected. Even if I'm just, say this is the only thing I do today is record this podcast episode, that would be good for me, right? I like having purpose with my job. I have purpose in motherhood. I have purpose in volunteering. I have purpose in myself, but I like having purpose in my career and my business. So yes, are there weeks? So in June, my kids went to camp or school 3 out of 4 weeks. So I had lots of time to work. In July, currently, my kids have one camp. It's 9 to 12, 1 week. And then we'll be going on a vacation for about 6 days. And that's it. The rest of the time we're here. During those times, yes, I want to go to the pool. Yes, I want to take them to the beach. Yes, we want to go. We live by the Lego place and Sesame place, and I want to go to the park. Yes, all those things I want to do. But I'm not going to sit and stare at my kids for 24 hours. I'm going to have time where also I work on home projects. Also, I work on relaxing and I read and things. But if I really wanted to say, is there an hour in my day that I could carve out to work on my business, interrupted or non-interrupted? Does it exist? The answer is yes, right? So it's really also about identifying what in reality does your schedule look like and how you're going to spend that time, how you're choosing to prioritize it. On the days my kids are home from camp this summer, I'm only choosing to work during the time blocks where I have a coaching call, right? So that for me is Mondays 9 to 12, Tuesdays 11 to 3, and Fridays 12 to 3. Those are the only work hours on the times my kids are home that I'm choosing to work, all right? I'm taking Thursdays completely off. I'm taking Wednesdays completely off. Well, I have one meeting like 9 a.m. on Wednesday, but we're done by 9:30. So I'm not even worrying about it because it'll be done before my kids are even like out of their pajamas. That is it for me though. That is what a line looks like. I'm not saying I'm going to pause my business for the entire summer because my kids are home. Now, we're taking 3 separate vacations that are almost like 5 to 6 days long. I'm taking off that time. I'm not putting pressure on myself to work during it. And that really helps me kind of wrap my brain around what this summer looks like because I'm like, you know what? I have a vacation coming up, right? By the time this airs, we have a vacation coming up in a couple of days. I'm excited for it. I know it's happening. Because of that, I've created some urgency that I've got to get my things done so I can enjoy my vacation. I just want to remind you that, again, it's not about, do I have the time? It's how am I going to choose to spend it? And there are weeks this summer my kids will be at camp from 9 to 4. Okay. What is that? That's like 6 hours, I think. 10, 11, 12, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay. 7 hours, we'll say 6, take out like a lunch break, me commuting to get them, whatever. So I actually have 6 hours that I could be working. On those weeks, there's 1 week. There's 1 week all summer where it's like, or where I have that every day. That week, I could either choose like to go hard, which is what I did. I pretty much was like, I'm not going to take time off. I'm just going to like work the whole time. I'm not going to like make any lunch dates or anything. I'm just going to like work on work so I can get ahead, or not. It's really about deciding what it's going to look like. And because I chose to take that time to go a little harder in my business, I then took a vacation and I don't feel guilty. So I just want you to know, if you're thinking about starting a business, it doesn't have to look all or nothing. It doesn't have to look like a full-time schedule every single week. I think people think that. Now, there is a period of push. We talked about this. There is work involved. There were some stages in the beginning of my business where I was working 60 hours a week during summit season. Come find me later. Like, I'm working my full 6 hours that the kids are at school and maybe 3 hours extra that night. Like, I'm working during that season, but it's not like that every day. And that was one of the things that really helped me think about, like, how do I make a sustainable business and how can you make a sustainable business, is identifying not every day is going to be like this. Not every week is going to be like this, but this is just what this season is. I teach a 4 seasons method: plan, push, rest, and fun. And in this, I ask you, how much push, how much plan, how much rest, how much fun do you need? And how is it aligned to your schedule and your life? And when you kind of marry that together, you will start to realize it's not, do I have the time? It's, how am I creating and crafting the time around my priorities? And again, I don't work all the time. Now, you're going to work, but it doesn't have to be constant. I did an interview with Elizabeth Stapleton for the summit this year, and she said something that I've not forgotten. And it was that consistent doesn't have to be constant, right? They're not the same thing. So you don't have to be showing up all day long, answering every single message all day long. Things can wait. Like, your inbox can sit there for 24 hours and it'll be okay. And I always say to my team, like, we like to reply to people in a timely manner, but we're not brain surgeons. Like, we don't need to do things at a drop of a hat. And that's okay. We respect boundaries and work-life balance that way. Now, if you're like, all right, I got you, I can do it. What are you going to do to make it happen this summer? Right? Can you delegate? Can you get some support? One of the things that I'm utilizing this summer is my support system. So I have another friend that works from home. We're doing some swap days where I'm like, can my kids come to you from 9 to 12 on this day? I'll take your kids from 9 to 12 on another day to get that focused work time. I have some friends who are home who are like, yep, your kid can totally come play. I don't care about asking anymore. I think that it's important for us to ask for help. And when we do, we model for other moms that it's okay and acceptable to ask for help. Now, I think that there's a fine line of taking advantage of people and asking for help, but I don't feel like I'm doing that, right? And I think that's really important. But I think the other thing is talking to your partner, talking to your kids, talking to your spouse, talking to your people, and just saying, hey, mommy's going to go in the office to work for an hour. When I'm done, we're going to go play a game. And I've been able to enroll my kids in that. Yesterday, we had a photo shoot. One of the social media company I work for, I get a photo shoot every month, which is really fun because we're getting some new pictures. So I said, okay, come over and we'll do my kids, right? Like, we'll do pictures with my kids so that I can have lifestyle pictures with them. I don't have that many new ones. And it was great. And my kids were like, why are we doing this? And I was like, well, I'm going to share this on my podcast. I'm going to share it on Instagram for my YouTube channel. It's part of my business, right? They were super into it. I've pretty much enrolled my kids in like the life of an entrepreneur. My daughter, oh my gosh, she is such a little, let me get a lemonade stand. Let me get a bracelet stand. What can I make? Can I make some slime? Because she sees me doing it. So don't feel like starting your business is going to take from your family. Think about what it can give to your family. Think about what it's going to give back to you. Asking for help is important. But while you're doing that, I just want to also encourage you, like, to make sure you're not just, okay, I have 15 minutes, I must work. Put in some time for you. Have those. I work out 4 or 5 days a week. I read my books. I do my little crafts. I do the things that fill me up. And I start to pay attention to when I'm starting to feel burnout and I'm starting to feel resentful towards my clients or my family. I'm just really aware of the things that I need in order to feel like this business can be sustainable. There's a few reasons, right, that not many businesses make it out of the red the first 5 years. this business, Purpose Driven Mom, we've continued to grow customer base financially, right? Reach impact over the past almost, it'll be 7 years in November. And there's a reason I've made it this far. And one of those is that I pay attention to the signs of how do I make this aligned so that I'm not burning out. I'm not working 24/7. I work hard, but I'm not doing it every single minute of the day because my work is a part of my life. It is not my life. And I think that's really important when you go into starting a business, that you create some boundaries for yourself also of taking care of you. It's really important. Now, I've hit moments, especially during like summit or like hard pushes, where I'm tired, right? Like I'm really exhausted. And I think that's really important to do, is to give yourself that rejuvenation. Speaking of that, before we kind of close today, I want to invite you to join the Purpose Driven Mom Conference this September 28th to 29th. We still have a few tickets left. Come out to Philadelphia, go to a purposedrivenmom.com/conference and come get your cup filled. We're going to talk about time management. We're going to talk about personalities. We're going to talk about how do you make a schedule around the way that you're wired and not the other way around, not fitting into this box the world has given you. We're going to vision set and dream and be around other like-minded moms. So come join us at purposedrivenmom.com/conference. Check it out. We have a few tickets left at the VIP and the general admission level. I just wanted to have a little sister to sister chat here with you today, and just let you know that it's possible for you to get that business off the ground. Okay. It's possible for you to have it in alignment. It doesn't mean you're not going to have to work hard, but there is a way to have it so that you're not burned out, so that it brings in money for your family and that it feels good. You know, I said to somebody, I was at field day this year, and they're like, you get to have a lot of days off, don't you? And I'm like, I choose to. I choose to take the days off to come to the field day, to volunteer at the school, to do the things that I want to do, because that's the point. I've created systems in my business to be able to do that. And I want that for you. I want you to have a business that looks like the way you want it to be. And it really is freeing. Head to purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 414. Check out the show notes today, the Dream to Reality workshop, the conference, and I cannot wait to connect with you more. I hope to see you in September in real life. If you have any questions, you can just send me a DM at a Purpose Driven Mom, and thanks for listening.